All right, before we jump into the final session of the day, I wanted to stop and reflect on some of the challenges that we covered today in the lens of the marketers, of course. We first looked at what it takes to connect data across different channels and platforms. Then we moved on to achieving data granularity and essentially looked at how difficult it's actually to achieve that itself, but most importantly, why it's actually imperative in order to scale as a business. And last but not least, we looked at the complexity of factoring in MTA and incrementality into the model. So with that all said, what does this all really boil down to? Ultimately, this is really boiled down to one large initiative that marketers are striving for, which is essentially what some would call the Holy Grail of connecting across the entire customer journey. So with that said, I want to invite Gadi up on the stage one last time to share a little bit about how we're seeing this vision to ourselves, how we actually think that this vision of the Holy Grail is actually within reach for marketers in the horizon. Please give a warm round of applause.
Awesome. Well, guys, massive thanks, first of all, for being with us today and being so awesome and asking great questions. And what I want to do today is kind of follow up on what Susan mentioned. I want to talk a bit about the future, what's our roadmap going to look like, and talk a bit about the customer journey. In a lot of conversation we have with customers, and there are advanced applications for better measurement, for understanding incrementality, for doing more advanced experimentation. Oftentimes it comes to the basic, like how do we even capture some of this data in a uniform way? How do we empower our data science team to be able to act on that? And so, today we talked about some of the more basic challenges that we have. We talked about the fact that data is siloed, and definitely a lot of folks resonated with that and how we can help kind of collect that and help bring that together. We talked about data not standardized. Again, the same thing. We talked about the granularity and how can we even try and solve for that data to connect in the first place. And then we followed that with sessions about what do you do with that data once you have it. And I think there's so much collective knowledge and experimentation in this room alone that's probably worth many cycles of optimization and can yield a lot of results. But now what I wanted to do is kind of say, okay, well, what's the next step? What are we going to do at Singular? And so, when I talk about it, I'm thinking, okay, where did we start from? What happened? What was that evolution? What are we striving to do? And how do we get to a place where we are today talking about the journey? And I think, it's easy to say that we always had this clear vision of connecting everything from day one, and it's partially true. And that's also why we called ourselves Singular. But you can look at the evolution, and there was an attempt to always go deeper and get more data. So it started with collecting ad spend, just automatically collecting ad spend from every channel across any sort of integration. And what's amazing is that, we've been one of the strongest and most comprehensive platforms there, and we've essentially, last year alone, processed over $10 billion in ad spend, which is pretty amazing. And if you think about it, I can look at some numbers. It was 3 times larger than any other provider in the analytics or attribution space, so definitely leading the charge there. And so what that done is kind of unlocked the ability to analyze ROI. Suddenly we see this marketing data. Initially was spend, but it's quickly increasing. But then we tie it to revenue, and we can look at ROI. I'm happy to say that I think we've done a really good job there. We were one of the first solutions to ever do that, and we've been doing that for many, many years now. And we essentially became this standard for the industry when you want to do that at scale, and I think we handled that really well. But then the next obvious thing was, how do we help people achieve better results? Now that we measure ROI, how do we make it a bit more actionable? And one of the, possible, maybe even lower hanging fruits was creatives. It's basically a pillar of optimization. It's something you could do maybe for free, and given that you have the resources. And what we've done is we essentially built this suite that helps marketers optimize creative. And the idea was to help them drive better results, improve ROI. And I think this has been pretty phenomenal. Just seeing this quote is pretty cool, but in essence, seeing the results we drove for customers was pretty phenomenal. And then from there, the next logical thing was, okay, well, creative is nice, but we want to do that at every single level, right? Like we want to scale ROI and want to get more installs. How do we do that? And so the idea was, okay, let's increase the granularity of data we're offering. It starts with spend, with campaign level and creative and publisher and keywords, and even push in a lot of partners to be more transparent. As many people talked about it today, there's a ton of value in being able to capture that data from one network because it can be used across other networks and generally inform your organization. And so that was something we worked on. And again, you kind of see the trail here. And then one of the probably biggest moves we've done was ask ourselves, how do we achieve the same granularity on ROI? That was really important for us and for our customers. And we've done something probably not really standard. We essentially acquired a company last year called AppStar. Some of you guys know it. And we created what we call the unified offering. We took all of our capabilities of analytics and data collection, data crunching, and we combined that with the attribution offering. And one of the amazing things that we've seen in the last year is, first of all, the results, the outcome of what it gives us in terms of granularity, but also the fact that a year ago this used to be 0, and now 60% of our customers today are using the unified suite. Now I didn't even expect that number. It's pretty exciting, and seeing some of these customers are in the process of onboarding, some of these customers have been running for a while, and the kind of feedback and results we can see from the data very quickly are pretty phenomenal. So that's really exciting. And then lastly, as part of being able to capture all this data, when we look at fraud, we don't just think of fraud in the context of attribution. Like fraud can ruin everything. Your spend is completely inaccurate. You're spending money on organic, right? Your creatives could be completely wrong because someone is injecting those clicks or impressions. In fact, it's funny, I don't know if you noticed in Yevgeny's example, but those fake clicks even contain the CPI. So if you're naive about it and you just capture the spend this way, we can even inflate what you think is your spend look like. And then lastly, audience is something we don't talk a lot about, but to me, it's such a powerful capability. The ability to take all your users and segment them and push them to a third-party system to kind of enable that workflow. And slowly, or maybe quickly, this evolved into 7.3 billion events a day that are being processed in real time as users are taking actions. But that's all nice, and I think a lot of you guys probably know parts of it or most of it if you heard from our team. And I'm definitely proud of it, but what I consider the North Star for our company is the customer journey. And this is one out of potentially thousands, millions of different customer journeys. This one kind of starts at the web, at the mobile, and very comfortably goes to the web. Again, just a random journey. And one of the key observations is just how many systems you're sending your customer through as a marketer. That's crazy, right? This journey is so convoluted. And one more, if we just want to make it more fun, one more challenge, an obstacle we have is that usually the world is split into silos. There's mobile and there's web. And a lot of it is because of technical limitations. There's a lot of mobile-first providers, well, one of them originally, and a lot of web legacy software, right? And you can recognize there's a lot of names. This one doesn't even contain 1% of the logos that I should put next to each category. And what we've done as a company is we actually decided to go mobile first on that journey. And we did that because we thought mobile is harder. We had a lot of experience from previous companies, and we also recognized that mobile has a lot of new technology that had to be built. But also there's another attribute about mobile, this concept of walled gardens. And essentially, if you're unable to solve for that and work with Facebook and Google and Pinterest and Apple and Snapchat and Line, you're always going to have a black box when you look at the journey. You're not going to be able to understand what's going on. And so this was really important for us. And this focus paid off. We became one of the most comprehensive platforms for mobile marketing. The people in the audience clearly show who is our target audience. It's the most sophisticated organizations in the world. But up until now, we had something missing when you look at the mobile journey. We oftentimes talk about ROI as app revenue, essentially any kind of revenue generated in your apps. And we look at the spend, the acquisition of the customer. And for many of us in the room, there is another form of revenue that's really important for them. And that piece is ad revenue. And so for a lot of the gaming businesses, perhaps maybe other businesses, in fact, we've seen some publishers here on stage, ad revenue is part of their revenue mix, and it needs to be factored in. And again, the reason it's not there today is technical limitations, the thing that we're always trying to overcome. And so today I'm really excited to announce that we're supporting pretty much every ad revenue channel that there is. We've supported all the big monetization partners. We're going to add any new one that you request. And this is going to be officially part of the product suite. This is something that any one of our customers, if you're interested, please talk to us, and we'll be rolling this out to all of you. And in essence, what it gives us is an ability to see a more accurate ROI. Now, this is impactful for multiple teams. There's the team that actually cares about tracking this, and maybe it's the monetization team. There's the team that is doing the user acquisition, and for them, that's more ammunition. That's more revenue that can be accurately attributed to their user acquisition efforts, and therefore give them some more ammunition. So really excited about that. We've been working with some phenomenal partners and some phenomenal customers as well. There's a lot of innovation for this, and so the idea is how do you get more granular? How do you eventually tie it to the user level? There's different methods, and so we're actively investing in this area, and I think already today can give you a solution for 99% of your ad revenue. The next thing I want to talk about is that continuation of the customer journey. So we like talking about mobile and the web, but a lot of you guys know us as Singular. That's the mobile company, right? There's analytics, attribution, but what happened recently, or well, maybe in the last year and a half, is our desire to expand the journey. It's not just about mobile, it's about any platform that marketers operate in. And I say any because it's not even just web, even though this talks about web. Again, there's a reason we want it to be called Singular, is to be able to capture the full spectrum. And to me, that's really exciting. As I talked about in the morning, there are these different types of data we need to touch. There's the marketing data, there's attribution data, and there's customer data. And we are now providing a way to capture all of this information from the web as well, and essentially help assemble the same journey that you have both on mobile and web. So that means that pretty much everything you're used to, the product is being sort of adjusted to support the web workflows. We already support probably most of the major partners, including a lot of weird sources as well. So that's a pretty great coverage on there. And the reason is we've been doing it for a while. And we have some of these phenomenal companies that we work with as customers who have been kind of pushing us in that regard and have been giving us support and guidance on what they would like to see. So definitely exciting for us to see that expansion. And then one more thing I want to talk about is, and you guys kind of guessed that, right? We talk about customer journey. It's not just mobile, it's web, but it's not even just any one of them as a silo, it's all of them together. And so what we've done is we also designed our technology, and we're finally in position of enough pieces of the stack, all the way from the analytics and the data collection and the creative and the attribution and the SDKs and whatnot, on the web, on mobile. We finally own enough technology to understand that cross-device journey. But when I say that, I'm not just talking about tracking that in your analytics or tracking it from an attribution standpoint, but I'm talking about the ROI. I want to understand what happens when I spend money on platform A and I'm getting customers popping up in platform B. And so an example output of that system would be that I could be acquiring customers on maybe mobile, but they're actually engaging with my product on web. And it's certainly relevant for a lot of companies in the room. And the same for the inverse path. Someone comes in from web and spends on mobile. And traditionally, if I were to look at sort of this single device ROI, like many of us are forced to today, right? Many of our stacks just look at mobile as a silo. I'm just going to see the wrong ROI. And then there's a few workarounds. Maybe you kind of connect it to your BI. Maybe you try someone to build a report for you, but it's not streamlined. That's not the kind of work we want to enable. And so what excites me is that we can now, with enough technology we've been building for the last few years, capture the cross-device ROI and essentially help marketers understand the true impact. So as you can see, both ad monetization and the web and this cross-device journey help us understand the full path of the customer and what really happens with marketing. And I think this is going to have a profound impact on marketing teams and how they think about allocating budgets or just measurement in general. Now, it's fun to think about all this in combination with MTA. That's really going to be a lot of signals coming in. Yeah, lastly, I just want to say, I want to thank everybody, and I just want to say we are your partner for growth. We have been there for years. You have guided our product amazingly well, and I cannot be grateful enough. We're going to be there to support you as you grow and support you with technology, support you with processes and knowledge, and even events like this where we can share knowledge. We're also going to be there to challenge you and talk a bit about the future and why it's important to set up the stack in a certain way. So with that, that would probably be my final word today. I really appreciate everybody for being here today and listening. Thank you so much, and I'd be excited seeing you next year.
I know I'm a little bit biased, but I truly am excited by this journey. So I think if we looked across the entire day today, the one thing that really resounds in terms of, whether it is that you have a growth marketing team of 1 or 30 or 20, I think I heard a pretty big number, 2,500, or whether you are coming from a web-based first approach or a mobile-first approach, the reality is that the future of what growth marketers need really means that the data really needs to ultimately live in a single source of truth. Only when this is available can you do all the amazing things that we have discussed today. And so it's something that I would say our thesis since day one, it's something that we believed in, it's something that we've been building towards, and it's something that we want to uphold our commitment to.